Hi everyone, how you doing? Today, let's look at all-on-4 treatment. Let's look at replacing a full set of teeth using dental implants. Let's look at the most popular kind of way of doing this, especially in the UK. And let's look at all of the different price points that we have, because there is a lot of variation. If you've been doing any kind of research into this, you'll find clinics that are doing it really low. There's medium price, there's really expensive ones. What are you getting for your money? If you were to spend a little bit more, what are the advantages and disadvantages? The truth is, these are all good options, and you as a person, as a human who's thinking about having this kind of treatment, you can choose, right? This is the really great thing. In the UK, cases that we've seen for who have had this treatment done elsewhere, the implant positioning has not been bad, actually. It's been pretty good, okay? I would still always advise not to go abroad for this kind of stuff, because that's where we have seen true horror stories. So I'm going to look at this from an insider's perspective. We've been providing all-on-4 treatment for our patients for almost, I don't know, what, 10, 15 years, something like that. And over those years, we have seen and tried a lot of variations. We've tried different implant systems. We've tried all sorts of different materials for the prosthetics, for the actual teeth. And we've tried doing treatments at lower costs and trying to compromise in certain areas. What's worked for us, certain things have worked, certain things haven't worked. And the truth is, it's sometimes difficult to see what the differences are between all of the clinics, because on certain websites, you're going to see buzzwords like we use zirconia teeth and stuff like that. You might think, if you've been doing research, that zirconia is our gold standard material for everything. And I'm partly to blame, because I'm a big fan of this. But we need to look beyond the marketing hype. And I want to be honest and transparent. We've obviously got a clinic and we do certain things in a certain way, but I want to be objective and fair to everyone, because even the low-cost providers, I think they will provide immense value for a lot of people. And we see this no matter what you're trying to buy. Even if you're just doing your weekly shop, you can go to Lidl, Aldi, Tesco, Waitrose, all of these kind of places. You're still going to end up with food. However, quite often the buying experience is different, and you might think that the quality in certain places is better. Now, let's start at the kind of the lower end. There's a whole bunch of practices which are popping up around the UK, and they've got multiple sites everywhere, and all they do is all-on-4 treatments, okay? And I say all-on-4, but it doesn't have to be 4. All-on-4 is just a brand name coined up by Nobel Biocare, but everybody seems to use it, okay? A popular term these days is all-on-X, where we're not specific about the number of implants, because the truth is the number of implants doesn't matter, and actually the number of teeth doesn't matter. This is another metric which is thrown around everywhere, but it's oversimplified. Now, what these places are good at is providing this treatment in a low-cost way. You see, it's really expensive to set up a dental practice, especially one which does surgery. The dentist themselves, or the surgeon, is expensive, and all the materials, everything is just really expensive. As soon as it's dental implant related, everything just becomes really expensive. So how are these places able to provide the service at a lower cost? And really it comes down to volume. So if you are seeing a certain number of patients, you just literally kind of, it sounds horrible because you're talking about real humans, but if you're just banging out these cases day in, day out, right? Everybody's under sedation. You have to economize. You create these massive economies in your processes, and that's how you can bring the cost down. It's kind of like EasyJet. All these low-cost airlines, this is exactly what they have done. And I would argue these are probably the most popular airlines. The carriers like EasyJet and all the other kind of low-cost places, I bet they sell way more seats than one of the more prestige airlines. Now, if you're looking at all-on-4 treatment, there are a number of kind of bulk discounts that you can get. One of those is on the implants. Now, somebody did write a comment on one of my videos recently saying, hey, look, I've got the option to upgrade to a premium implant. Should I do it? And honestly, I don't know is the answer. I'm going to make another video about this. I would personally prefer to have premium implants in my mouth, okay? But that's my personal belief. In the days that we use non-premium implants, we didn't get any failures because of it, okay? What's way more important is the skill of the surgeon, the experience of the surgeon who you're under. And you may or may not get to meet this person or have a consultation with that particular surgeon until quite late down in the process. You see, this is another way of kind of economizing the whole thing. A lot of the initial conversations, at least, are done by a treatment coordinator who is not the actual surgeon doing the treatment. You do need to be a little bit careful, okay, because there is a sales kind of bias on this kind of stuff. You see, from a business point of view, for any business there's a cost of acquisition, okay, and that means what is the marketing cost involved to make that person who wants your product aware of your product, okay, and then for them to actually come in and then have treatment. So remember, because these places are a little bit more reliant on volume, there is an inherent bias to kind of tell you what you want to hear so you can have the treatment. Now, I would hope that most places are ethical, and I know some places are ethical because people have come to us after going to these other these kind of high volume places, and they've said that actually, you know what, I was supposed to have both arches, but the surgeon said no because my teeth were pretty healthy. So we have heard those stories as well. I don't want to be unfairly critical of these all-on-4 places. However, I've also heard other stories where sometimes you're kind of forced into, you're not treated as an individual because all they're doing is selling this product and you kind of have to fit within this product.
One of the ones that I didn't particularly like was what I would call the factory approach, where appeared to be wonderful facilities, very shiny and bright, but I always felt I was being pushed into their one solution.
So I think a lot of these places will offer free consultations. Pick up the phone, have a consultation and see what your feeling is. You need to understand the experience of the clinician. And if you can speak with the actual surgeon doing your treatment, I think that is way more beneficial than actually just speaking to a treatment coordinator whose job is technically to sell the treatment. Now, I would always be aware of the headline costs that you get on websites. A lot of places will put the implants in, and we've discussed, whatever implants it should probably be fine. And the skill of the surgeon. The skill of the surgeon is way more important. Then you've got the materials used for the restorative aspect. In the good old days when this treatment was starting out, we all used what's called an acrylic wrap, which is effectively a denture with a metal bar connecting all of the implants. And this worked for a lot of people. Yes, we did get some fractures, but it wasn't that common that every single patient was having them. What we found was there's a few people who get them a lot. And it's very difficult to kind of know this before you've even started the treatment. So then the evolution of different products came along. We've had PMMAs, we've now got zirconia, and then you've got zirconia with a bar inside it. You can have PMMA with a bar. There's a lot of permutations and a lot of variations. Even the quality of the zirconia matters. There are different levels of strength and abrasiveness in zirconia.
It's a type of material, but you can have very cheap, quite dense material that is quite abrasive. It's quite white and opaque, and you can have really nice translucent, really high quality material which is also softer against the opposing dentition, vastly more aesthetic.
And I didn't even know this until I sat down with Ashley Burns, who's the owner of Burns Dental Laboratory, a very highly regarded dental laboratory based in Oxford. And he explained that the zirconia materials that you get it in it's like a hockey puck, and the machine cuts out the teeth from that. He's told me that he can spend from £30 to £300 on the puck itself. Okay, so obviously there's going to be a massive variation. And if that's literally just the raw materials, okay, then you've got the skill and artistry of the dental technician who's actually doing it. And we'll come on to artistry in a second, because this is something which is not really given loads of attention if you're going in at the kind of entry level. Okay, yes, you'll get teeth, and there will probably be a dramatic improvement to where you are. It's like buying a watch. If you're unable to tell the time, okay, just by looking at the sun, then buying a watch is a great upgrade. And you can buy an amazing £20 Casio from eBay, right? And it will be fantastic. It will be more accurate than a £200,000 watch. But again, with watches, as with everything, you get incremental upgrades, the more you sell. And you might be into watches, you might not, okay? It's just something that recently I've been a bit more interested in it, okay? I don't have a £200,000 watch. Okay, the most expensive watch is actually my G-Shock that I'm wearing at the moment. But the uncomfortable truth for me is that not everybody is as obsessed about dental aesthetics as we are. The truth is, I think I'm going to guess what 80% of people who are in a situation where they need to have all-on-4 treatment, they would just be happy with teeth. I mean, if we're starting off in a position something like this, anything is better than this, right? So even if you get that denture look, again, I'm not using the word denture look as a derogatory kind of term. If all you want is teeth, but you don't really mind if they don't look as perfect, as natural as to be on a magazine cover, these solutions are going to be great. Quite often on the lower end of the treatment cost scale, they will limit the number of appointments and reviews that you can have in terms of the look of the final aesthetics. Everybody is different on this. Even in our clinic, we've had patients where we've done try-ins and the occlusal plane has been slanted, or the midline's been off, or the color's not been right, and our patients look in the mirror and they're like, wow, it's amazing, we love it. Okay, and there's been other situations where I think it's an absolute masterpiece and the patient's like, oh, but this tooth back here is really wonky, I don't like that. Okay, everybody's different, there's no right or wrong, you just need to find the right kind of solution for you. So as we start to look at different places which are typically more expensive, what are we getting for that? Okay, I would say the implants used are probably going to be more premium. Okay, but as I've discussed, I don't know whether this is an actual benefit or one of those psychological benefits. I would prefer a premium implant, and that's why we predominantly use premium implants in our clinic. I'm taking my belief and basically pushing it onto our patients. And I think you're going to get a little bit more attention to detail, especially on the prosthetic side. Okay, so there's two parts to an all-on-4 treatment. There's the surgical side, which is putting in the implants, which is the bit that nobody sees. However, the surgeon doing the treatment, hopefully they can see art in that treatment. I know when I do the treatment, I'm really particular. Oh, is the depth exactly right, or the angulation and all this kind of stuff? And does my X-ray look beautiful? Okay, that's how I judge if the treatment is successful. And then we've got the prosthetic side, okay, and that's a different type of artistry. This is more critical from a patient's perspective because, as a patient, this is what you can see. So if the aesthetics is more important to you, then I would go with somebody who has that attention to detail. Now, although we do all this treatment in-house and about 80% of my time is in my practice doing this treatment for our patients, I do work at one other practice, and there all I do is the surgical aspect. So the patients from that practice will come to me, I'll do the implants, and then one of the restoring dentists will carry on and do the actual visual bit, the teeth that you get. And the dentists there are actually, they've got that attention to detail. It's a cosmetically focused dental practice. So they have that eye. And I think that you need somebody who has that artistic eye, who's not going to get frustrated if you are one of the more kind of particular patients, right, where your attention to detail is really high. Then I think you should try and find a practice that can understand where you're coming from. So over the years, we've seen so many patients who are at different levels on their kind of attention to detail. And it's really rewarding when we can deliver a product and it completely blows the expectations of our patients. That is the best day in the world. However, some patients, we have to try really hard to meet that expectation. Eventually we get there, but it can be a bit of an uphill struggle. And we've had so many patients who have been to other places, but maybe their expectations were not met. So then they come to us. And the reason that their expectations weren't met is because that dentist or who's doing the restorative work doesn't have the same attention to detail in terms of aesthetics. Okay, so when we're looking at long-term health, hopefully, especially here in the UK, because there is so much at stake in terms of regulation, that most clinics will do a really good job on that. Okay, you should end up with a set of teeth which are easily cleanable, maintainable, and hopefully the implants have been placed in a good position and you'll get a good long-lasting result. If you go with better materials, okay, like stronger zirconias with bars, then these are more expensive. However, we get less breakages, less fractures. Now, saying this, even in our clinic, we have recently introduced a kind of a halfway house where it's a set of teeth and the teeth are 3D printed. We have the aesthetics designed by our a digital technician, and we can print these things in-house. And it's made of a material which is way weaker than zirconia. However, it is really cheap. So what we're starting to do, and I don't know if we're going to do this long term, but it's really a way of allowing our patients to have this amazing smile transformation with one compromise. And that compromise is in the aesthetics. So we can make these 3D printed teeth, we can fit them in, but they can fracture, okay? And if they fracture, it's really frustrating because it's going to happen on a Friday or just before you go on holiday, but it's really quick and easy to have another set made. Okay, so typically we'll actually make 2 these days, so our patients have a basic spare that they can carry with them. So even if you're abroad and you can just go to a practice that does dental implants, they can take the screws out of what you have and put the new set in, and it's like having a spare tire in your car. Which reminds me, nobody sells cars with spare tires these days, which is incredibly frustrating, having had a puncture quite recently. But the reason we've introduced this kind of lower cost option is because I feel if we're going to make a compromise, the teeth is where to make that compromise, especially where the kind of cost saving on having a semi-permanent set of teeth, a set of teeth made in PMMA or resin, or probably PMMA is better. Okay, don't get hung up on the materials, just understand that it's a little bit weaker, but there's a backup plan there, and you can always change the teeth as long as the implant positioning is really good. Then you can have whatever you want, and the implant components. There's been one situation over the years where a patient has had implants done abroad. The implant company didn't sell in the UK. They didn't have a CE registration. We were then unable to buy any components that would fit on top of those implants. So we ended up having to remove a full all-on-4 where the implants were fully integrated. It's not nice, but you know what? Sometimes it happens. So I'd say that this is our kind of mid-range treatment. There are people who charge a lot more than us, and there are treatment solutions which are more expensive than what we typically charge our patients. Okay, for example, on an all-on-4, you could have individually made ceramic crowns. So our zirconia solution is basically a puck, like a hockey puck of zirconia. The teeth are cut out, and then a dental technician, who I hope is an artist as well, would add on the gums, will add on the color variation in the teeth to the specification that we've made with the patient beforehand. So we'll design the smile in the patient's mouth and tell the technician, this is the shape, you add the color and the life to the teeth. Now, there is a variation which isn't that popular these days, and I think it's because of the cost, and that is to have individual ceramic crowns. So you have a different bar, and the bar's got all of these kind of spikes on it, and on that you can have individual crowns made. Now, I have done a handful of these over the years, and if you look closely, they look really, really nice. Okay, this is akin to having a really prestige watch with its mechanical movements, you know, some, I don't know, Rolex, I'm guessing that's the market leader. You know, if you open up a Rolex, the attention to detail and the workmanship inside there is going to look and be amazing, okay, compared to if you opened up a, I don't know, a more budget mechanical watch, I don't know, Seiko maybe. And I get the appeal of the kind of top luxury brands, okay? And I would really like to own a really well-made, expensive watch one day when I can justify the cost. And it's not that I can't afford one, it's about justifying it, okay? And I hope that this video will help explain the differences of all-on-4s. You might be able to afford the most expensive, but what's right for you as an individual, you know, most expensive solution, is that worth it for you? Okay, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, right? And there is no right or wrong answer. If you would prefer a more personal service, I mean, we sit down with our patients for about 2 hours, and this is me who's actually doing the treatment, sitting down with our patients. We look at their x-rays, we go through the treatment plans, the treatment options, all of this kind of stuff. I personally feel this is incredibly valuable. However, not everybody will. And even when it comes to looking at the CT scan, quite often we'll take a CT scan. It'll take me a few hours to kind of plan the treatments and all of this stuff. We'll make a little video, we'll send that to our patients. All of this stuff is really not necessary, but we like to do it because I would like to be involved if it was my treatment. And we spend a lot of time on the aesthetics. You know, my personal background is really in aesthetics, so that's something that I prioritize. But you know, I get it. Not everybody is that particular about the look of this part of their face. And you know what? Choose the right practice for you. If you're not sure, go to a few places and get a feel of the the kind of vibe that you're getting from there. But I hope this video has helped clear up the different price points and the different options that you have, and to go beyond the kind of the marketing hype that you're going to just see on websites. As a practice owner, I know what is expensive, I know what's time consuming, I know why we charge what we do for our treatments, and I know what other people charge, and I know what they are doing and areas where they are cutting back as well. Okay, and not cutting back in a bad way, it's making that treatment accessible for people who may not be able to afford the the top end treatment, and it is a life-changing treatment. I think that if you're in a situation where your teeth genuinely do need to all be removed and to have implants, and all you can comfortably afford is one of the kind of the economy solutions, it is going to be life-changing, and you should definitely do it. This isn't about always going with the most prestige because it's the most expensive, it's the best. Okay, it is better in certain areas, but what is your objective? What do you want to be able to do after this whole dental journey that you're going through? And can you achieve it at a different price point to what you originally thought? So as always, I hope this video has been useful. I hope you've got something out of it. If you did, please do like, please hit subscribe. It really helps the channel out, and it makes me feel a little bit good. It makes me feel warm inside. If you hated it, let me know. That doesn't make me feel so warm. All right, guys, I'll see you next time. Take care.